for his near contribution to the bill, and I call the honourable member for Lindsay.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, I am pleased to rise today in support of the Export Market Development Grants Amendment 2014, introduced by the Minister for Trade and Investment this morning. Deputy Speaker, this amendment delivers on the Coalition's pre-election commitment to not only progressively restore funding to the Export Market Development Grant Scheme, but to also provide an initial $50 million boost. Of course, as other speakers have noted, the previous Labor government cut these grants by $25 million per year, resulting in a disastrous effect on small and medium export business across our great nation. For Australia to maintain our international competitiveness, it is essential we find, nurture and support our innovative entrepreneurs, in turn enhancing our nation's export base across agriculture, services and manufacturing. Three economic pillars essential to the future employment of workers across Australia and crucial to the economic viability of the people in Western Sydney who look to such sectors for their future job security. Unfortunately, cuts by the former Rudd-Gillard-Rudd governments says much about their lack of understanding in regard to Australia's small and medium-sized enterprises. It is a clear example of the misalignment of Labor priorities, demonstrating their interest more in meeting a target than in supporting these important sectors. So often we hear small business is the engine room of the Australian economy. Deputy Speaker, in the private sector, small business in Australia employs some 43.3%, and I would like to remind the House that all businesses were small once. In order to secure the economic sustainability of our nation, the Australian economy must diversify. We must find new trade opportunities, and we must ensure our place in new and emerging markets. This scheme works to do just that, thus enhancing Australia's manufacturing, services and agricultural export base. This is the primary goal of the EMDG scheme and why I rise today to speak in support of this bill. And as such, I welcome this $50 million increase to this important scheme. Deputy Speaker, the Export Market Development Grant Scheme helps small and medium Australian exporters, potential exporters, develop their export markets to become sustainable exporters by reimbursing up to 50% of eligible marketing expenditure. As someone who has come from a marketing background before entering this place, I applaud the investment into marketing, because marketing is where we find the potential markets that will buy our goods and services. If we are not proactively looking to find new customers for our goods and services, we don't actually make products that will actually find a place overseas. It is a key Australian government financial assistance program for aspiring and current exporters. Administered by Austrade, the scheme supports a wide range of industry sectors and products, including inbound tourism and the export of intellectual property outside Australia. This legislation gives effect to the changes, which will also make the scheme more accessible to businesses looking to export, and therefore I anticipate the sector will grow in leaps and bounds. In addition to the increase of $50 million in funding, this amendment also proposes 3 changes to the way the scheme will be administered. It will increase the number of grants available to be received by an applicant from 7 to 8. As a result of this change, it is estimated that an additional 138 exporters will be able to claim an additional allowance each year. This will allow more experienced exporters to claim an additional grant and will allow previously successful recipients to further develop their goods and services, not only in existing markets, but to also re-enter markets now commercially viable due to their reduced exchange rate and diversify into new and emerging markets. This amendment will reduce the minimum expenses threshold required required to be incurred by an applicant by $20,000 to $15,000. This will be a benefit to additional 143 exporters who are projected to be able to make a new claim each year. Essentially, Deputy Speaker, reducing the minimum expenses threshold decreases the market budget small exporters require to invest in their export marketing programs before they can even claim an export marketing development grant. This in particular is expected to be well received by the small and medium enterprise community as well as industry associations. Finally, it will reduce the current $5,000 deduction from applicants' provisional grant to $2,500, resulting in all grants recipients receiving an additional $2,500 per grant. The current difficult international trading conditions, exporters have faced several years of pressure on their marketing budgets from higher exchange rates and weak international markets. The ability to have even a modest increase in marketing funds is expected to be very, very welcome. This increase in grant funding will be particularly relevant now many small medium enterprises increasingly eyeing their potential for increased international sales as exchange rates ease, the international markets increasingly recover. These three administrative changes is excellent news for Australian small and medium-sized businesses who want to continue to be competitive, who want to continue to innovate, who want to find the products for tomorrow, who want to find the new iPhones, the new iPads, who want to find the new automotive technology, such as I see in my own electorate. But before I do move to my own electorate of how I see these grants actually working locally, I would actually like to draw the attention of the House to the interesting comments made by the members for Sydney and the member for Oxley. I mean, the assertion that the Labor's proposed bill pre-election would have decreased grants for exporters in developed markets such as Europe, USA, and focused more on developing, that is a sign that they are recognising the importance of Asia and other exporters. I'd like to quote the speech from the member, the honourable member for Sydney, where she has asserted these claims and has gone on to say that the Labor Amendment Bill introduced in the last payment sought to realign export market development grants to support small business exporting in East Asian and frontier of emerging markets. It is disappointing to see that the Abbott government has walked away from these proposed changes. I certainly believe that it must be possible to find a way to leverage the public's investment to further the nation's strategic objective of a much deeper engagement with the region, not only has realignment with the scheme. Deputy Speaker, the important point is to recognise that small and medium enterprises who export are participating in global supply chains. To export to Europe and USA may well be ultimately benefit to end markets in Asia or developing markets. For example, exports of fine wool to Italy end up in suits created and sold in Shanghai. So, Deputy Speaker, I'd just like to point out that I don't think the opposition have much form in this space. Then we had the member for Rankin, who went on to say that Labor got rid of red tape to help small business. I'd like to remind the House it was the previous Rudd-Gillard government that actually provided 21,000 new regulations. That's right. 21,000 new regulations. Shameful. So I do look forward to our first repeal day where we start rolling back these red tape that has been inflicted on the Australian economy by those opposite. But to my electorate in Lindsay, Deputy Speaker, I can appreciate that from a helicopter view these changes may be viewed technical or only beneficial to large Australian exporters, which is just simply not true. Which is why I'm so pleased to note the previous receipts in my electorate of Lindsay who have used these grants as an opportunity to increase their market share internationally. I am also happy to note these companies welcome the coalition government's additional support in this important area of their business. For starters, Concept Paint St Mary's, a business that I have known quite well. Not only did my own family's small business actually get involved with their technology, it's a wonderful technology, but I've also visited their manufacturing plant in St Mary's. Deputy Speaker, this is a medium-sized business, employs a lot of local people out in Western Sydney, which needs to be conscious of how it spends its money. It needs to be thrifty. It needs to weigh up their risks and their opportunities. To export a product overseas, it is not simply a matter of 1 or 2 meetings, but rather, as Concept Paints describes it, it is a 2-year pipeline of regular meetings, supplying, shipping of samples, as well as technicians to support the sale of the product. Now, being that their product is somewhat innovative and it is a completely new product, they actually have to do quite a lot of work in the marketing space to explain to the emerging markets as to how this product is actually going to improve productivity for people overseas. So really, it is quite a long process. And with any type of process like this, it also comes with costs. The primary competitors of Concept Paints are multinational companies who have far bigger budgets than they do that can drive sales. The Export Market Development Grant Scheme, Concept Paints will continue to be competitive. They will enable their company to push and promote their products into foreign markets and increase its global footprint, which is great news for Concept Paints and a real success story about how these grants boost manufacturing, boost Australian products and boost the industry as a whole. Good news for the automotive industry. GPC Electronics, located in Blakey Road, Penrith, has also benefited from the Export Market Development Grant Scheme. In the previous financial year, it received $150,000 under the scheme. For more than 20 years, GPC Electronics has successfully manufactured complex electronic equipment for leading global organisations such as Toshiba, Nortel, Alcatel, Siemens and NEC. And now one of the largest contract manufacturers in Australia, exporting to over 40 countries. The list goes on. PacWest Jamisontown. Yet another local recipient. PacWest is located in my electorate and has received $10,495 under the Export Market Development Scheme. This is a fabulous local organisation that has strong ties with customers and suppliers to develop innovative packaging, products and solutions. Other businesses who have benefited, and there are so many more. The AustralianNaturalHealth.com, based in Emu Plains, specialise in pharmaceutical and toiletry goods and wholesale. They have received $19,706. Epitome Proprietary Limited, an electronic equipment manufacturing company based in St Mary's again, received $10,689. Austrails, a tourism business, and Sydney Executive Tours, a fantastic travel and tourism company based in Penrith, received $30,000 in the scheme. Spiller Industrial Supplies, located in Batt Street, Penrith, are a sole export distributor for Apollo Cleaning Systems. This year they will receive $15,534. And finally, Sud Kami. Australia is a fantastic international company which has its Australian offices based once again in Penrith, and in the previous financial year has received $18,137 in grants. Why these are so important to areas like Western Sydney is that 2/3 of my workforce have to commute every single day for jobs. It is grants like this that create local jobs. It's grants like this that help my local community. It's grants like this as to why I stand here today to fight for the people of Western Sydney. I can appreciate that this money was administered under the previous government, but I encourage the House to consider how much longer this list would be with the administrative and financial boost introduced by the coalition government today. I encourage the House to consider how much stronger our small and medium-sized business export markets will be under these changes. Let us not forget, it was the Labor government who continued to make cuts in this important sector, who continued to cut the Export Market Development Grant Scheme, who continued to cut into the opportunities that support that we as a government provide to this vital sector. I, Deputy Speaker, am proud to be part of a government who seeks to support this sector and to continue to give small and medium-sized enterprises a hand up. We want to make Australia one of the best places to start and grow a business. We want to be a smart economy, we want smart jobs, and we want our local manufacturing, agricultural and service businesses to be exporting international. Small business and medium business, Deputy Speaker, are the engine room of our economy, and it's time we supported them. They need to be unshackled by this reckless opposition who, under government, did all they could to burden them with regulation and more taxation. Deputy Speaker, I commend this bill to the House. Thank you.
I thank the member for Lindsay for her inspiring contribution and call the honourable member for Canberra.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker.